Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Crypto Night Show. Your host Superman in the house, and man, have we got an interview for you. One of my favorite people of all time in the PulseChain community is here, and that is AWildSJ. So I hope you guys enjoyed the interview as much as I'm going to enjoy it, and meet, I think, one of the best people in our community. Honestly, just absolutely love her and followed her for years. And yeah, she is definitely the positivity princess. So we're going to meet her now. So without further ado, getting into the chats. If you got any questions, and remember, this is a family-friendly show, so have fun, and let's get to hear all about AWildSJ. All right, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Yay.
I'm so glad
Great.
you prefaced it with family-friendly. I'll keep my mouth.
Yeah. Well, you just never know. It's the internet, right? It's the internet.
Accurate. Yeah.
We've got quite a few people in the house already, and it's just great to have everybody here. SJ Wild, it's fantastic to have you. So yeah, AWildSJ in the house. I can't believe it.
I'm here. Yeah, you've been working hard, man. I've seen it every single day. You've been streaming during the entire bull market. I think or bear market. I think you're one of the most underrated content creators.
Yeah, every day. Just I think I've only had a few days off in all 6 years now. So yeah, just keep going and keep grinding. I love crypto, and I know you love crypto. PulseChain as well. And you have done. You've been on the front lines. Honestly, you've been on the front lines of PulseChain. And doing some of the most amazing things like the Pulse Tour and many other things. I mean, Crypto Sparbook guys. I think you were doing things with them and everyone else. So looking forward to hearing about all that. We got a few people in the chat there. I'm just going to say a quick hello. We got Lucky Luke in the house there. Bullish week ahead. Absolutely. Feel free to comment on these. We got woohoo. Let's go from Excavator as well. Craig Pitt in the house there. Hi all. Good to see you, Craig. He's fantastic. Thanks, Craig. Sean O'Malley as well. Sean O'Malley from Australia is here as well. Great to see you. We got Brennan in the house there. Howdy, Super and SJ. Howdy.
Hello.
And Wookie in the house. Wookie is playing Mechanic today. Nice one there. It's always great to serve there, Wookie. Always great to serve. And Wookie is fixing the HQ.
Nice.
Yeah, probably. Awesome stuff. Now, SJ, I guess the best way to start is just tell us a little bit about yourself, I guess. Just lay it down. And so for the very few people that haven't heard of you before, let them find out who you are as well.
Sure. So yeah, I guess origin story. I love this. I also love how you've embraced this whole Superman and like the Kryptonite show, and I love this whole branding. So
I'll tell you the story behind that later on, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to hear it. Yeah. So let's see. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little SJ living in Austin, Texas. None the wiser to all these crypto shenanigans. Basically, I've always been very techie. I've always been into technology and learning and things like that, and mostly through video games. Like I grew up with Game Boy was like one of my first like platforms, and geeked out on video games. Ended up working for Blizzard Entertainment, and kind of like through that vein, I had a boyfriend at the time, and this had to have been like 2011, like 2011, somewhere around then, who bought drugs with Bitcoin. Sorry, family friendly, but bought things on the internet with Bitcoin, and that was my first introduction to it and what it was. And I didn't pick up any at the time, but I knew about it. I'd heard about it. And then I ended up buying some of my own in 2017. I had, I was doing well.
Drugs or Bitcoin?
What's that?
Was that drugs or Bitcoin?
Oh, Bitcoin. Yeah. Oh, snap. Maybe a little bit of both that year. I'm not sure. So I bought a tiny bit of Bitcoin, and I must have said something on Facebook about it, because a friend of mine reached out and was like, hey, I noticed that you bought, Bitcoin. And let me tell you about all these other things. And that friend was Crypto Kool-Aid. Some people are
wow.
familiar.
Okay. Yeah. Crypto Kool-Aid.
So
Yep.
he and I knew each other for years just through living in Austin together. We both loved drum and bass and going dancing. And so that's how I knew him. I had no idea he was an influencer at the time and was doing all this crypto stuff. But I listened to him and he was like, yeah, diversify, do a little bit of this. And I said, okay. So I broke that up, put it into like 4 or 5 different coins, and then completely forgot about it. I moved away to Puerto Rico, unrelated to cryptocurrency. Like I have family there. I'm Puerto Rican, and I went out there. I ended up moving out there 2 weeks before the hurricanes hit, the big Hurricane Maria. And I spent the next year serving alongside people that were rebuilding farms and trying to get, because I had a past in organic farming in Austin as well. So that was near and dear to my heart. So did all that, and then fast forward to 2020, end of 2020, beginning of 2021. I'm in Austin, and at this point in time, I had a home, and I decided to put my home on the market. And I was tired of paying my student loan debt. I was just like, man, like I don't want this on my back anymore, and I need to, I just want to do other things. I'm such a gypsy. I was barely home anyways, so I was renting it out, and that was a hassle. So I ended up selling the home, and in that period, I was very much focused on financial freedom. I was like, look, I want to be wise with this money. I want to know that where I'm putting it is going to be put to work. I'm going to pay off this debt. I'm going to have a little extra. I'm going to do what I can with it. And I intended to invest in crypto. I already knew I was going to put a little bit into crypto. Well, I ended up going through like looking for a high yield savings account, a 401k kind of thing. I even got into options trading. I started taking this options trading course.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe I can start doing some of this. Well, about 80% of the way through that options trading course, unbeknownst to him, Kool-Aid reaches out to me again. He didn't know I was selling my house. He had no idea any of this was going on or that I had any like extra capital to play with. He was like, hey, I want you to take all those little coins, everything that you had diversified into. He said, I want you to put that all into Hex.
Wow.
And at the time, even though I was trying to be financially wise and learn things, there was a little part of me that was like, can I just give this to you and have you maybe do that? And this was the best advice I ever got. Thank you so much, Crypto Kool-Aid, for saying absolutely not. Sorry, I almost cussed. He said, absolutely not. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know that this is your wallet. These are your coins. You are self-custodying these finances. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? I'm already on that bandwagon. Let me go ahead and sure. Let me dive in and let me learn about it. So I spent the next 6 months learning mostly through Whales Only. Whales Only won Crypto Coffee, Balliet Brand at the time.
Balliet Brand, yeah.
So those were one of the main influencers I listened to, and I felt so sure about what Hex was and how it was working and what it was doing. And mind you, this is as we're going to the top, right? And I had no idea. I didn't know there were cycles in crypto. I didn't know that Hex had already done a 10,000x. I didn't know any of that. So I'm just here investing in it, listening to these people talk about it and how it's going to go to the moon. And I'm like, sure,
Yeah.
No. The piece of advice I wish I would have got that I did not get was the DCA, because I put in my chunk of money. I put in like a chunk and a chunk and a chunk, all at the top or near the top as we were going up to the top, and again, not knowing it, I had no clue that there was cycles. I was just like, this sounds secure and I'm sure about this. And I was sure about taking a gamble on it. And that's one thing that I stress when I talk about, my experience and what I've gone through, because I never put more in than I could lose. I knew the entire time, wherever this is going, whatever this is going to do, bye-bye. If it all goes to zero, I made that bet. I risked that. So I do all that. And then as I'm learning about all this, I start kind of seeing Richard. And I'm like, oh, who's this Richard guy? Okay, I guess this guy's the founder. That's interesting. Maybe I should learn a little bit about the founder and who he is and what he's done. And I think thanks to Balliet Brand, because he was more into SciVive than anyone. I think that's how I learned that SciVive existed. Yeah. And then I thought, let me read this thing. If I want to find out about this founder and who he is and what he's done, and if I really want to feel secure about this investment or this gamble, let me find out more about Richard. So I sit down and I'm like, all right, like there's got to be an audiobook, right? Because I'm a huge audiobook fan. And there was at the time, shout out to Ann Hex, the only audio that existed of SciVive was a speech to text, like a robotic sounding version of it. And I thought, you know what, like I just listened to the first, maybe like the first page, and I thought, you know, this is interesting enough. I'm going to read it. Why don't I go ahead and just record myself reading this, and then there'll be an audiobook. And so that's the craziest part for me, is that like I didn't know who Richard was. I didn't know how big of an impact he had on crypto. I didn't know how many followers he had or what he, you know, all I knew was there was this man out there who had made this crypto and he's shaking his butt and like, you know, opening Gucci boxes. Like, you know, so I was just like, oh, well, I'll read this thing and, you know, maybe someone else will like to listen to it. So that's kind of where, you know, unbeknownst to me, you know, that I became endeared to the community, because I just decided to do something that I thought would be nice to have, also not knowing Richard had ever talked about doing an audiobook or wanted the audiobook, or I'd never heard him even mention it. So I was just like, oh, I'll just do this. And yeah, that's it. It's like the rest is kind of history. I mean, I've done a lot since then and been involved in other projects, and I'm happy as a clam. Like I still, my initial investment that I put in is still like absolutely down.
Intact. Down but intact. Yeah. Hey, look, there's a couple of things I want to reflect on in that backstory, because first of all, you said that you helped out with restoring farms, I think it was.
Yeah.
I have cousins that I recently visited there in the country, and they run that whole horticulture setup, which you'd probably be very familiar with. They, you know, growing just about everything you can imagine on it, and it was a real delight for me to go there for that. So I can imagine when you were doing things, even though there's a lot of hard work involved, that it's actually a pretty lovely thing to do in terms of, you know, growing horticulture and all that sort of stuff. The other one you said that you're into, was it dub music? Dance music?
Dubstep and drum and bass.
Drum and bass. Is that your thing? Is that your jam?
I love drum and bass. I'm a junglist at heart. I love to dance. Yeah.
Okay.
I love house music too.
That's cool. So because obviously, you know, DJ Cryptomatic out there, he's doing his lives all the time. Yeah, so he's amazing. So I thought there's a nice tie in there. And Balliet Brand, and you bring back Balliet Brand, and he was such a sweet guy, right? Such a sweet guy. And what a great backstory his as well. And then, it gets you up to the point where you're getting a little bit of tidbits of advice from different people, and you still don't know the sort of the core character. And then you kind of pick up on one of his, the SciVive, and then suddenly, you know, you pick that up. And what I guess a battalion is, I can't remember what the word is, but you pick that up, and really what a flame that has been ever since you've done that.
A baton.
Baton, that's what I'm thinking of. Battalion, baton. That's what I was thinking. You pick up the baton, but you know, and you know, it's that opens up a whole new chapter, doesn't it? Doing that SciVive. Yeah. So this, pretty cool backstory. But hey, look, from my point of view, I mean, I've seen you just just about everywhere, and you really are, you know, the positivity princess, the inspiration princess as well. And delightful for sure. So it's been a lot of fun, and I can't tell you, one of the things that I remember is your bus that you have at the PulseChain Tour bus. Man, I just think that is the grooviest thing ever. And whenever you do videos out of it, it's just like, this is so cool, man. This is so cool.
In it right now.
You're in it right now. Yeah, isn't that fantastic? It's very, very groovy, as we would say. Very, very groovy. Anyway, tell us a little bit more about, I guess, SciVive, because that's sort of, you picked that up, and it's really blown up big time. And Richard's acknowledged it and sent it out and loves it, and probably really appreciates it. So tell us a little bit more about that, because that's been incredible.
Yeah, for sure. That's been just the coolest thing. Like, I get beside myself. When he mentioned my name more than once on the Christmas video, I was just like, wow. Like, you know, how cool to have come this far, and to be someone who really advocates for who Richard is at his heart. You know, it really like tears me apart and wears me down when I see people, you know, like saying that he abandoned you, or saying that, you know, you have expectations of him, or just any of these things. If you knew who he was, if you really have read SciVive, if you followed him, or like, you know, watched any of his older content or his videos, you'd know He is a philanthropic genius who wants to see other people do well and live forever. Like, that's part of what SciVive is the longevity aspect of it, right? Like, people forget that that's actually, in my opinion, and from what I've heard over the years of his content, kind of like going, because I, like I said, I got here late. Like, I really kind of took Richard for granted, because I only was around for maybe a year and a half before he did stop doing the videos. So, when he stopped, I was, I wasn't like phased by it, because I had only seen him around for a little while. I was just like, oh, okay, well, whatever, he's got other things he's got to do. And so SciVive, I ended up, it was so well received the first time that I did it, that I thought, you know what? I want to do this well enough so that it can be on Audible and be paid content. Because I know that that's one of Richard's, one of his goals, or at least it was at one point. He wanted to have SciVive be a published book that people can purchase, and he wanted the audio to be something that is purchasable on something like Audible. So I actually did it twice. And in between the first recording and the second recording, I edited the entire book, because I have a background in journalism and content writing and things like that. So I ended up going through it. So, and it's a bummer, because SciVive right now is so on the back burner for Richard. He's in the middle of this fight for DeFi. He is focusing on our rights as humans, our right to free speech, our right to movement, our right to transact. So that's where he's at right now. That's where his mind is focused on. So, even though this work has happened and these things have gone on, it's probably going to be a while. It's probably going to be years before he goes back and revisits SciVive and actually does decide to get it published, or, moves forward with it being on Audible. And at that point, maybe he'll do his own version and have that be on Audible. By that point, it would be easier for him to do that, I'm sure.
But you have done such an incredible job with it, so and it's been incredibly well received. Do you have a bit of a breakdown about? Have you it's broken into chapters and things like that? Have you got? Can you give us a little bit of breakdown about that, and maybe a couple of highlights for you out of some of those, if you've got them top of mind?
Yeah, actually, let me just real quick. It's crazy you mentioned that. So one of the other things that I ended up doing was, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do these quotes so people can hear it, because a lot of people don't even want to read the book. They're not interested in it. And I just decided to do a year. I was going to do 365 days, but then I was like, well, 369 days is just a few more. And that's one of our numbers for this.
Bravo.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, let me do 369 quotes. So over the course of, like, I think it took me a year and a half or almost 2 years, I did all those quotes, and I just started doing them again, just because I feel like, especially on X, I feel it's very difficult to reach an audience who you're going to attract from the outside into crypto. So the content, the things that I want to do and what I want to build, I'm going to focus on other platforms where I'm building content to bring people into crypto. For X specifically, I'm just going to do Richard SciVive content, because it's like, if you're only going to find me usually or follow me if you follow Richard or know what SciVive is, because that's mostly all I talk about. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to this content, and I'm going to keep doing it, because I love it. I really love, like, showing that side of Richard and who he is and what he believes in.
I think it's fantastic. I think I thought it was golden when you did it, and I think you've done a terrific job of it. So yeah, let's hear a little bit about it, I guess.
So this is Richard's. I mean, he's got it broken down. Hold on, let me find one other thing, because it's actually in the first, or in like the preface in the beginning of SciVive, he breaks it down into 3 chunks. So the first, here we go. Okay, so there's 9 core principles of SciVive, and this is what the chapters are. Okay. So there's an intro, and then it's mind, which is, how do you put that, man? Here's what I'll do. I'll tell you the chapter, and then I'll read a quote.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, okay, sounds good to me.
So from Mind. Here's a quote from Mind. Let me zoom in back here. I'll just do small ones. Your mind. Okay, so here's from Mind, and I'm glad because this actually says the word mind in it. Your mind will hit you every few seconds to do the old bad things you used to do. And as you tell your mind otherwise, after a while, it stops trying to get you to do stupid things. As you starve out the old habit, eventually it just dies. So you can see mind is about, just your mental state and rewiring your brain in a way. So mind, body, and spirit. So body is the second chapter. So here's one for body. Let me read one of these. If you this is a great one. If you have 3 extra sodas a day, you will be roughly 45 pounds heavier for the rest of your life. That's how powerful calories are. Consequently, if you drink 3 sodas less a day, and we're talking normal cans of soda, not the monstrosities you find for sale at your local convenience store, you will lose weight. So just practical advice, right? So mind, body, and then spirit. So spirit, let's see. I like this one. Somewhere along the way, adults lose the smarts that kids come up with. Adults assume that whatever they want isn't really on the table, so they aim for the floor. If you could dream the biggest dream and whatever you wanted would become instant reality, what would you dream for? So he takes spirit in kind of like a how would you say that? Like an embodiment, like your energy, right? Like kind of and it's not woo-woo at all because he's very anti-woo. But it's very much.
I think you can take the principle out of it, right? Which is, I think he's got some very good principles there to live by that will help you out a lot.
Yeah.
Like
so that's
the mind.
the first.
Yep.
So the first trifecta, mind, body, spirit, and then the second trifecta is money, power, and respect. So money, pretty self-explanatory, but we'll just read a quick one. Do not give your money away. What about all those other things that show up on your credit card bill that you never got around to canceling? You probably need to eat rice and beans and pay down that debt. Affordable, healthy food is a great start to making money appear where there was none. So just
that's true. That's true. A lot of truth in that. Yep.
And then power. Let's
power.
See. So power. Give yourself the gift of focusing on what you want. I love this quote. Focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Give your brain the gift of knowing what you want so that you get more of it. When you fill your life with what you want, you'll find out that you don't have space for unwanted behavior because it just doesn't fit. Yeah,
that's a good principle too. Yep.
Yeah, and then respect. And respect was the chapter that, like, of all of the book, of most of all the chapters, respect was the only part where, like, there were a few kind of, just for me as a woman, iffy, like, I don't necessarily, that was the only part where I was just like, I don't necessarily completely agree with this, because he had pickup artist background. And so some of the info in respect is a little pickup artisty, maybe like leaning a little red pill, but it's such a small percentage of it, that I was just like, okay, well, we can agree to disagree with this kind of stuff, and I'll just move along. So respect. It says, if you truly want to, this is a very, very Richard quote. If you truly want to be loved, you've got 2 options. Search harder to find someone that loves you as you are, or improve who you are. Be more lovable.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Yeah. So mind, body, spirit, money, power, respect. And then the last 3 is time, space, and experience.
Okay.
So time, hold on. I just screwed up my, okay, time. Okay. And just, again, here's another practical piece of advice. Use alarms. Now you don't have to be worried about missing a thing. Let your phone worry for you. Use calendars with alarms. Now you don't have to miss people's birthdays or forget to get your teeth cleaned.
Very important. Very important.
Right?
I think that's very important. Yeah.
And then space. Let me see. There's one that I want to say if I can find it. I don't see it. I don't see it, but this is a good one too. I like this, especially for me being out in the garden a lot. He says he's talking about your physical space, right? Just things that are around you. So in this case, he says we can absorb a lot more from the sun. The sun has a nearly infinite amount of energy to give us, and as long as we can accept that energy and harness it to do our bidding, then we can have all the delicious food we want, all of the peace that we want, all of the travel that we want, all of the progress that we want through reformatting and changing that energy source. So it's kind of interesting, like he kind of touches on like the solar energy thing there.
Yeah.
And then lastly is experience. Let's see here. So this is a great one. This is the last quote in that chapter. These are the magic moments that you will remember on your deathbed. The things that made life worth living. Your first love, the birth of your child, achieving that lifelong dream, sharing great food and sights with friends and loved ones. So experience, again, he's just talking about like, how do you fulfill getting the best and most experience? So there's those three trifectas, and then there's a last like bonus chapter basically. So chapter 10 is longevity. And that's just all about, what longevity is, how people have like these presuppositions or like these predetermined thoughts as to what longevity means, and he's kind of dispelling those myths. And I'll read a really short quote on this one. So from longevity: don't be so busy with today that you lose tomorrow.
That's very cool. That is very cool. Hey, look, I think all those principles were fantastic. So I think everybody can relate to those, and definitely people, if they can apply them to their lives, definitely will be way better off for sure. A special shout out to Randy Alasky in the house. That is cool. That's cool. Thanks for the sticker as well. That's cool. And definitely SciVive has been a very cool series, without a doubt. And you've done a great job. Now I'm going to ask you a question. If there was a second follow-up SciVive book that Richard would write, what would be a couple of chapters, do you think, based on what you've seen from Richard over the last year or two, that you think he would write? Yeah.
So it's interesting you bring that up. I'm gonna kind of answer it in like a little roundabout kind of way, because in SciVive he actually talks about how cool it would be if books could just continually be updated. And that's actually something that in the past, when like way back in the day, like I did have a little bit of communication with him on the book and on SciVive and working on these things, and that was something that he still felt that he wanted to do or wanted to try and do, was just not necessarily write new chapters, but just continue adding to this text, right? Because he's constantly providing advice and giving out information about things, and wanting people to excel and succeed. I think, though, to answer your question, I think one thing that he would add, or that maybe we could have a whole new chapter on, would be technology, because there's so much out there now, and there's a few quotes, or there's some passages in the book where he talks about AI, and I think he's actually expanded his worldview and opened his worldview up a little bit, because I'm not going to say he was anti-AI, but I think he was much more skeptical of it. And this was, SciVive is like over 10 years old, I think now. Yep. So, so it was a while ago that he had, had these ideas and these thoughts about what IA was going to do, or, what it was going to become. And then just with the technology aspect, like it didn't work out, but I have this because Richard mentioned it, like I'd been wanting to get one of these kinds of cameras for a long time. And then Richard was like, yeah, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, if you're going to do like streaming and stuff, unfortunately, I don't know why it didn't work out being my webcam today, but it's a nifty little camera, and he's always just kind of like on the cutting edge. You guys know, like with his keyboards and like audio sound, like sound equipment and things like that, he always wants the best of the best.
Yeah, we saw that on behind the scenes with the highest stakes behind the scenes. He's got his whole setup, and it's really, really clever. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think technology would be a big one today, and maybe even that could be two categories, right? Like maybe there would be a technology for like actual physical devices and things like that, and then like an AI, or the future of this kind of like automated technology.
Yeah. What's one or two others that you can think of based on what you've seen from Richard over the years? Because this is quite an interesting topic, I think. that he has added a lot more to his bow, or whatever. He's a lot more arrows to his bow. A couple that come to mind to me is obviously blockchain and free speech.
For sure.
And I think another one is glory. I'm in for glory. But also I think another big one is community. I think he was asked at one of the conference, what's the biggest thing that you've had in the PulseChain? And it was community. And I really love that answer. It's always stuck with me. So yeah.
And that's another reason why I call myself the positivity princess, is because that's for me what has done a 10,000x in my life.
Wow,
right?
I love that. That's a great line.
Yeah, I don't feel like while yes, the gains are going to be fantastic, like my life and the people that I know and who I'm surrounded with, and the fact that I can go anywhere in the world today and have someone open their door or say, hey, come crash on my couch, or like, let's go to dinner. I feel like I never have to be alone. Like, not that I'm a lonely, I'm a very social butterfly kind of person.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
This good to have people around. I mean, that's what people, it's all about, love and life, right? Love and life. Yeah. I just want to pick up a few people in the chat because we've got a great bunch of people in today. So a big welcome to everybody. Obviously, we've got Earth23 in the house there, and AWildSJ appears. We love that phrase, of course. And of course, Randy Alasky in the house. Great to see Randy. Great influence. I mean, does amazing stuff himself. So big shout out to you, Randy.
Awesome. I got to go to the No Permissions conference in
you did?
January. Yeah.
Oh, lucky you. That is awesome. Yeah. And what else? We got MVS in the house there. Good to see MVS. Big shout out to you. SJ for president. There we go. And who else we got in there? We got Brendan in the house there. Hex Glenn. Good to see you, Hex Glenn. Big welcome to you guys. Amo friends as well. Good to see you. Moon Mutt says AWildSJ, one of the finest hexkins of all. How about that? Can't do much better than that. Who else has jumped in here? We got a couple. We got Francia in the house there. Hey, Francia. Hey, WildSJ. Big shout out from Francia.
Yo.
Good morning, Superman SJ from Heartwood Dog. You've been following the anime series, like with me, yeah. And Hex Freedom in house there. Great guest. Haven't seen SJ for years. just how could that be? How could that possibly be?
What?
Time out. Go to the corner. 5 seconds or whatever. Not whatever it is. We got Tyndall in the house there. SJ in the house, absolutely. And we got Sandy Beach. You got to know Sandy Beach. She's in the house as well. Hey, Super SJ and everybody. Happy Memorial Day from Sandy Beach there. And always supporting SJ, says Sandy. We got Blair in the house as well. Hey, Blair, good to see you also. And free SS is in the house there. The old Radeon, doing pretty cool, isn't it? Doing pretty cool there. All right. Now the next question I wanted to move on to was the PulseChain conference, a PulseChain tour live, I should say, and how that's like a bit of the background to that and where it's going from here, I guess is the way to go.
Sure.
So if you could give us a little insights into that.
Yeah, definitely. So that started, how did that all begin? Basically, there was a point where I had finished SciVive, and I had actually been working. I was doing some work for Rags, Brandon Rags to Riches, and just kind of trying to find, because before getting into crypto, like I was doing gig work and acting and like a lot of like different little things. And I basically was at the point where I was like, I don't want to work for someone, like I was being really independent. And so I thought, man, like there's got to be some way for me to do what I love, which at the time was, talking about like this whole community and like being a part of it. And I actually reached out to RG because I had done some work for him previously, in terms of like helping write like a bio and a couple other things. And I was like, hey, I'm debating on whether or not like I'm gonna go pick up a different kind of job, or like do you or anyone have work that I can do to stay like doing this versus like going back into an office or something like that. So he was like, yeah, actually, like I've had this idea. He's like, let me talk to a couple people and like figure out a couple things, and I'll get back to you. And basically what ended up happening is he had the thought that he wanted to do a tour, and he was going to do this tour whether or not PulseChain launched, whether or not the market was in a bull or a bear. He just wanted to go out there and tell people about our ecosystem and get people to understand that this was, you know, a real good thing out here. And the first person, so, you know, he was like, yeah, like let's try and put this tour together. And the first person he reached out to was the artist formerly known as Black Hexagon, right?
Oh, yeah.
Haley, who goes by Crypto Culture now. And because she had done the whole tour with the KSB crew.
That's right.
And, you know, came alongside them. Her story's awesome. Like, if you can ever get her, she doesn't like being on camera too much, but if you can ever get her to tell her whole story, it's phenomenal. You know, where she came from and what she did. And to, you know, to her credit, none of this would be going on if it weren't for her. She does all the logistics. She has handled, you know, all of the planning and getting, you know, everything set up. And she's just great at it. She's got a super good knack for event planning. She actually has her own website. It's discoverksb.com. I'm totally shilling it because she's awesome. And if you need to put it on an event, you should definitely do that. I'll get a hold of her for it.
It's very good.
But so it's basically been the three of us for the last 2 years, touring around the world, just teaching people about PulseChain. And the first year was just quite an adventure because I'd had this bus. I decided to get it painted, you know, put PulseChain tour on it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to drive this bus around the country and, you know, we'll go to these different stops and teach people.
I fell in love with that bus straight away when I saw it because that fits my style. I loved it. It was great. Yeah.
So that was a whole adventure in itself. I mean, anywhere I went, everywhere I stopped, I was either asked about what it was or someone came up to me, and usually it was in the middle of nowhere, like all these places that I would just like stop and like, you know, not a big town, and people would be like, I know Richard Hart. I have PulseChain, you know.
Wow.
I'm just like, oh, cool, like awesome, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so and that again is part of why I try to put out my content and talk about these things, because the world on social media is this tiny little itty bitty microcosm of the fact that there are hundreds, if not thousands, or 100,000 people out there that you don't know that are not on social media that are also invested in our community and our ecosystem and are, you know, like ready to get back in and hear about it again. That's just been amazing. And you know, it was successful and it wasn't successful, right? Like we made nothing. Like RG paid out of pocket for every event, and most of the time we barely covered the cost of getting ourselves to the event, you know. But the fact that every time we went somewhere, someone new learned about it. Someone had a connection where they basically, like, I've had people tell me about businesses that they started with other people because they met on the PulseChain tour. I've heard about relationships that formed because they met someone while they were on the PulseChain tour.
Sounds like another audiobook series.
For sure. Absolutely, all the behind the scenes drama. But
50 shades of rainbow colors.
Yeah, so there are ripples, right, that are gonna have taken effect, and you know, like I said, like kind of business deals, like, you know, people learning about projects that they wouldn't have known. People, you know, we gave a platform to almost anyone who was interested in wanting to speak about building on PulseChain. Now, you know, luckily we didn't like come with a disclaimer, but it was kind of just like, hey, you know, like we're not a part of this project. We're going to let them speak, and they built on PulseChain. A couple of them burned us, you know, like we're not stoked that, you know, that happened, but there was no way for us to know. And, you know, at the very least, you know, we were out there doing what we could to support the people who were building. And, you know, most of the time it was people who were reputable and wanting to do more for the community and, you know, learning out, being another thing real quick. One of the greatest things that I think I heard and saw and understood while doing this tour was hearing people who would say things like, I don't have anyone else to talk to. There's no one around me, friends or family, that understand or know the struggles that I'm going through, the joy that I have, the passion that I have for this. So just to be able to go face to face and talk to someone and have, sit down and have dinner and like have a discussion about something that you're passionate about and that no one else will talk to you about, like that's why I want to continue, going out there. And we're just, we're going to keep doing meetups and things like that. And so forward thinking, because of just, like we've all got our own separate lives. We've all got other things we're doing. We'll probably do meetups here and there in Cali because the three of us are all California based. And those would just be like free, like, hey, we're going to be here, come hang out, meetups. Every year, though, this is our plan or our hope is that every year, March 6th through the 9th, PulseChain Tour conference. Like we're going to be doing something big. RG's vision, he wants to fill the sphere in Vegas. And I love that, like originally he was like, oh, I want to fill stadiums, but then like, because we had it in Vegas and we'll do it in Vegas next year too. Like that's just his thought is if you look up this sphere, it's this gigantic, I actually got to go there for the first time and I saw
it on video. It's impressive. Oh, yep.
It's huge and it's phenomenal, and like how awesome will that be to one day have, Hex and PulseChain just like gracing the screens of the sphere and just have it filled with people. So that's what our focus is now is we're just going to go ahead and like move forward with focusing on the one huge like cornerstone event per year and make it, bigger and better every time. And hopefully, it'll be akin to something like ETH Denver eventually, right? We're like, hey, you're coming to, Pulse Vegas and we're out here. And, if you're building on PulseChain, like come here, have a booth, talk about it, hopefully we'll do another, pitch fest, right? So you come pitch your project and then maybe get funding for it.
Okay.
So that's the goal moving forward is just the yearly big huge PulseChain event.
That could be that's a really good idea, the pitch fest. I like that. All right, cool. So March the 6th to the 9th. Every year, so it's awesome. Now I got to ask you a question. When you're traveling in your bus for PulseChain tour and things like that, do you actually have a soundtrack for your journey?
Do I have no? I have several soundtracks. I'm very eclectic with my music. Like I'll listen from everything from like I've been listening to a lot of Dusty Springfield, to be honest with you. She's old school. To like I said, like drum and bass and
well, you're living in the perfect country and I guess on the perfect continent for traveling as well. So it's like it's perfectly set up for that. The other thing is when you're on the PulseChain tour and you have got the conference on, things like that. Who are some of the people that you meet? Like you talked about people that you've been able to talk about, the experience of PulseChain and other things. But who's sort of some of the people that people might know that you meet on the way?
Oh man, so I got to meet. I've met almost like anyone you can. RH Max, Lit Gaines.
I'm pretty sure I've seen you on like Florida cruise ships and things like that. I'm sure I've seen you around. Yeah, you pop up all
Florida
over
cruise ships.
Hashtag jealous. Hashtag jealous. I'm going when I see you because you're popping up. That's cool. That is cool. It's like it's pretty neat.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, my life has 10,000x. Like, I've gotten to see and go places and do things and meet people that I never in a million years, 5 years ago would have thought this would be my life or this is, who I'm surrounded by and the people that are my friends now. So
that's fantastic. Now, I was telling you about we're talking a little bit. I'm going to just jump back here to the name of the channel, the Kryptonite Show, and my name, obviously online name, moniker is Superman. Now I got that because I used to be a classical ballet dancer, right? So, and I was so good at it. People used to call me Superman. So that's how the chain. It's not just I just like comics or whatever. But it's actually from when I was a dancer, back in the day when my body was a weapon of war, so to speak. And that's how I got it. And so it just stuck with me, because people kept calling me that because they would see me and go, my God, how the hell do you do that? It's like, so that's how I got it. That's pretty much how I got the name. But little snapback. I love that. I thought I should, give you a little bit about me.
Yeah.
About yourself. So scoop there. Yeah. So where do you think, what's some of the other things that you may be doing in the future that you're not doing today, like PulseChain tour, that you can imagine yourself be doing, maybe in PulseChain or outside of crypto PulseChain, that you don't mind talking about?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I do think is going to be huge, especially in the next year or two, is onboarding. And I mean, it's like I have been doing that, right?
Yeah.
But just in a way that's going to reach more people and really reach out to people who, wouldn't otherwise hear about it, or maybe like have like reservations about it. I really think that here's the thing, like, especially right now, um, I've been to a few events out here in LA, right? They have crypto Mondays and there's these meetups, right? And most of them are Bitcoiners. And like every time I go, I'm so disappointed because the people there do not have any interest in DeFi. They don't understand what crypto really is, what DeFi is, or what, like, what we're here to do, and like the freedom that it can bring to people. And all they care about is their what crypto company are you with? Like I heard RG, because he was just at another event. I overheard him talking about this. Like they ask you what company you're with. Just like, I'm not with a company. Like, I'm not here. Like, do you know what DeFi is even? Like, why are you in crypto? Like, they're all
DeFi is kind of the most advanced topic area in crypto,
For sure.
if you ask me. Besides being a builder, where you got to do, all the technical stuff behind the scenes. But yeah. Like, just getting people to talk about crypto is like a foreign topic most of the time.
For sure. And most of them think Bitcoin is crypto. Like, they don't know that there's like more than one crypto. They just think Bitcoin. Like, I went out there and there were moments where I would ask people, because they'd ask about the bus. They'd say, "Oh, what is this?" And I'd say, "Oh, have you heard of crypto?" No. "Oh, have you heard of Bitcoin?" Yes. Right? So they don't even realize that Bitcoin is crypto.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a battle teaching people that the crypto that I want to see succeed is not the crypto that is this Genius Act, like government approved BS. Like that's not what we're interested in, and not the battle that we're trying to fight out here. So I feel like there's gonna be kind of a twofold thing that I'm gonna be involved with, right? Is like, on the one hand, teaching people what true DeFi is and how it works and how they can be self-sovereign in terms of their financial situation, right? Or so we hope, right?
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, getting a little more involved in politics. I mean, there's a huge group out here in California of people that go up to the Capitol and they talk about crypto, and they go up there, but it's like, okay, what kind of crypto are you fighting for? Because half the time it's not what I stand for and what I'm interested in seeing move forward. So I think we have a big uphill battle, and I'm so glad to be on Team Win and on the team that Richard is on, because I think he's one of the only people in this whole space that understands that and is fighting for it.
Certainly, yeah. I've always called him the rebel founder in crypto, because everybody else sort of almost hopped in line with each other, and it's the same old narrative. Whereas he was really standing up and saying, no, blockchain's free speech. We've got to defend it. We're going to fight until we get it. All that sort of stuff. And he did it. And so now. I guess Richard's always talked about his roadmap and eventually a country called Hexaco. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever been there? Because you're the one traveling. So
in my dreams.
You seen
I mean, I feel like, so when I first got in, that was one of the big things that attracted me to this community. Is I got involved in a group called they were called the Hex Foodies, and now it's the Hex Guild. And they're all about sustainability and like building, growing your own food and beekeeping and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, oh, wait a minute. So like I'm in crypto, and there happens to be a group of people within my crypto community that are into the stuff that I'm into in real life, like, growing my own food and things like that.
Match made in heaven. Yeah.
Exactly. I heard a lot of people at that time talking about wanting to build their own kind of hexaco, like, hey, I want to buy this plot of land and set it up so that people can come with their RVs. And if you're a Hexagon, you get a discount or something like that, or like have it be like a Hexagon only kind of camp sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's like a twofold dream for me. On the one hand, I can see it being kind of a network, right? And that's another thing that I actually want to kind of work on and push forward is becoming a tighter network. Because if we can keep our monetary actions within our own group, right? Like that helps build each other. I mean, like, we've got a guy that can make swords, we've got mechanics, we've got blacksmiths, and
Shields
like
too, right? Shields as well. Yeah, shields.
Yeah, shields. It's like, it's almost, I feel as almost if like dentists, what I mean? Like, if there's something that you need, why not reach out to someone within the community for it, right? And pay them versus paying someone outside of our community, right? So keep that economic energy within our community and building up our own community. So I think that's something that could happen. I also do strongly believe.
I definitely think something like that could happen. I think that would be a really fun idea. I mean, it really is a great idea, and I could see a lot of people flocking to that.
Yeah, Will Stevenson of the DGen Roundtable, he's actually kind of started something, and I know EcoBuilder has as well. Both of those guys are like really into that whole community building idea. And I gotta figure out who it is, but there's a list. There is already a list somewhere of people who have like certain like professions or abilities and how to contact them and things like that.
I can see big crowds at a PulseChain festival with the DJ Cryptomatic pumping out the sounds from the desk. I can see, AWildSJ out there with the, encouraging everybody along. That sounds pretty good to me. Sounds pretty good. Yeah,
absolutely.
Brennan makes a point. Beehives hexagonal. Just saying. I don't know why I'm having trouble with English language today, but hexagonal today. Just saying, which I thought was pretty funny. Now, yeah, that's right, Brennan. That's right. So I wanted to bring it home a little bit too, because coming up almost 8 minutes to the hour. Now I just want to ask you just a few little specific things about PulseChain itself. So what are some of the sort of projects and things like that you've been kind of keen, in terms of what's on PulseChain? Is it just the Richard Hart core coins? Is there other stuff that you've been liking? Just from your point of view, what are some of the things that you sort of caught your eye, so to speak?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been a maxi, right? Like nearly this entire time. And I've heard tons of things about different projects, and it's difficult because to me, it really is about trust. Like I got burned hard because I thought I could trust the founder of some project, and that ended up not turning out well. And it was like it was one,
especially in CFI, right? Especially in CFI projects.
For sure, yeah. And it was something that I shilled, and I found out later that someone else got into it because I talked about it, and that was really a big moment for me, because I have never felt that I'm an influencer. I've never felt that I'm the kind of personality that someone would buy a token because I speak on it. Right? Like, especially when it comes to things outside of Richard's stuff, right? Which I very rarely ever spoke on. And to find out that someone did buy, because I mentioned something, and then of course it kind of like went all to nothing. I was just like, man, like, I got to really watch it and be very careful about like, what it is I talk about or what I do. Now, if you follow on X, there are several projects that I do like and I talk about, like, and I'm not going to go to the extent of being like, oh, this is not financial advice, do your own research. Like I kind of put that out there, but it's like, I will talk about things where at least I either know the founder well and I think the project is cool, or I have a good feeling that things are kind of cool about it, or it's something that you can watch and look at, and that's going to bring attention to the chain, and you don't necessarily have to invest. Like, I'm not ever telling anyone to invest in anything. It's just, so anyway, so with all of that disclaimer.
Well, hey, it's also about freedom, right? So you should be free to say what you want to think. If you like something, you like something. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me about that, because that is true. So one of the biggest projects that last thing I'll say about this is I don't have a lot of time. Like, I don't watch a lot of content.
Just one moment. I've just got to hit getting rid of the buy button. Just a moment. Go.
So here's a great example. Is one project that I really love, that I would actually love to spend more time learning about and getting into their little ecosystem, is the anti-gravity project.
Oh yeah,
Dark matter and the pink mist whale. I love, and I know Max is a sweetheart. I love him and his wife. I've met them on several occasions. We have hung out for multiple days and hours on end. Like, they're wonderful people. So for me, that's an absolute solid. Is like, I know the founder. I know how awesome he is as a human, and I know that what he's building is just fun. Like, there's a whole story. I haven't even read the story, and there's a whole story behind it. Like, there's all these chapters, and there's like a spin-off story now. There's been, like, they're writing songs about it. They're making all this great content about all that stuff, and I love that there's ecosystems within our ecosystem. Like, the fact that
what I really like. That's why I like the heart of the dog with the hog.
Yeah, that's another project that I've talked about.
I'd like to see a few more of these just sort of flourish in the PulseChain ecosystem and just grow. So no, that's great. I love the artistic side, and I think it's a very important part of the community. Just like from DJ Cryptomatic with music. To yourself, of course, you've got your artistic flair, and through to anime series, and it's really exciting to see that flourish in our community for sure. Our global community, because I'm down here at the bottom of the world, and you're up in the big US of A. So that's what it is. Hey, look, we're coming up to 56 minutes on the hour, and I just want to get to one more question. Sure. And that is, what is the big message that you might have for the community moving forward that you would like to say on live stream? And then I'm going to say my final comment. So go for gold.
The big comment I have for
one moment. Here it goes. Here it goes.
Keep being positive.
Yes.
Keep building. Keep growing.
Yeah, and lots of hearts and all that sort of stuff. I'm a guy, so I'm not really used to doing this, but lots of hearts out there. Oh, look at that, beautiful! Oh my God, it's amazing. So you saw it there. Now, all I want to say is my final comment was, you're amazing. Everyone loves you, and you're doing a fantastic job. You really are, the positive princess or the inspirational princess. And we've had lots of lovely comments in the chat to that effect. And all I can say is just keep up, all the awesome stuff you're doing. Everybody's watching, so you are being, everyone knows you, and you're doing an amazing job. So yeah, no pressure. And I look forward to seeing what you got coming up next. And of course, always hit me up if I can help in any way. Let me know. And we are part of this PulseChain community. And was it SciVive and Thrive? Let's just say SciVive and Thrive.
Yeah.
And that's the one. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, everybody. And Crypto Jack said it the best. I love AWildSJ. How about that? So that was pretty cool. And we had a great bunch of people: Randy Alaskian, Sandy Beach, Brennan, Crypto Jacks. Everybody's in the chat there. And I appreciate all your comments as well. All right. On that note, we're going to say goodbye. The crowd goes wild. Crowd goes wild. And we loved it. All right. I'm going to have to end the show now. But it's a bye from me. And it's bye from SJ. All right. Take care, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. It was awesome. Bye for now.